Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, James Protin. Every week I will be sharing the experiences that have defined my journey and talking with people who have their own powerful story to tell. It's about doing better and being better in life, business, and all things in between. The visually inclined can catch us on YouTube, or you can check us out on just about every podcast platform. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We're back here at our home away from home at Chico Baccello in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. And our guest today is Meghan Greenwood, Dr. Meghan Greenwood, who I found out last night that I've known since she was in high school, and I didn't realize that I knew her since she was in high school. But I'm old, Meghan. That's all I can say.
6 degrees of separation in the Pittsburgh area, right?
Well, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
I'm really excited you have what I think is a really cool and really unique story, in that you've managed family life. You're a wife and a mom, and apparently I know your husband too. Didn't even know that either. but a lot. You've got a PhD. You're doing. Let's just jump into this. Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and so on and so forth.
Sounds good. So grew up in Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania, not too far from Canonsburg, and I haven't really moved that far over the course of the last 40-ish years. And I, from a young age, was put into dance classes. My parents really saw that I was interested in moving my body, mostly because I sat in front of the TV, MTV at the time in the 80s, and danced to the music videos. But also I was born with my feet turned inwards. Okay. And they took me to an orthopedic and, the pediatrician, and they said, well, we could sort of reset her ankles or her knees and kind of break the bones in a way. Geez. Or you could try orthopedic shoes or putting her in dance class to see if that would sort of correct the problem. So I remember being little and my grandma having me walk across the room with my feet pointed out like like a dancer would be. So, all of that sort of sparked an interest in movement and dancing from a young age. So I grew up dancing. I danced for Joyce Ellis, the late, great Joyce Ellis in the Washington area. Wonderful human being. Another beacon in this area, and very much miss her. She was my mentor. Oh, she was special. Yes, she was special. Super special. And just the love of movement and dance was just really manifested from a young age and carried over into adulthood, which we will get to. Okay. But I also really found myself interested in book reading and writing from a young age. Okay. Loved to read, challenged myself to read as many books as possible kind of over the summer. And I, from a young age, learned how to type. My dad put me behind a computer. Really? Yes. I remember being like the fastest typer in third grade. And did you get a trophy for that or something? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But that's very cool. But I liked creating stories. I liked sitting behind the computer, writing up stories. I wish I had a floppy disk drive now to sort of look back as to what I was writing at that age. Yeah. But those two pieces were ingrained from an early state. Okay. So moving forward into college, I went to Penn State University for microbiology. So I went into the science field mostly because I really enjoyed science in high school. And I thought, okay, well, there's probably a lot of different jobs I could get into with the science background. Sure. So I did that. And while I was in college, didn't do a whole lot of movement, didn't do a whole lot of dancing. So that piece was sort of, lingering. I really wanted to get back to it. Though. Still out there. Yeah. Got into graduate school at the University of Pittsburgh. I pursued my PhD in immunology. Okay. Mostly because I took a class at Penn State with this amazing professor, and for the life of me, I cannot remember his name. I could see his face. He taught Immunology 101 or whatever. Yeah. And just the way he taught, I was like, this is incredible. Like that this whole system exists inside of us. Like it's basically like an army that fights off foreign invaders. Sure. And sometimes that army gets a little convoluted and decides to start fighting our own bodies. So I thought that piece was just so incredible. And that's why I went into immunology during my PhD research.
Very cool.
So yeah, at the University of Pittsburgh, I studied there. I studied type 1 diabetes research. I studied an antioxidant.
Terry Lynn's type 1 diabetes.
Yeah. I studied an antioxidant treatment of type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
And did the whole PhD research track, which was stressful beyond
I can imagine.
belief. Yeah. Just hitting milestones, writing grants, publications, all those things just really weighed on me for the 5 years that it took me to finish. It was a great experience. Don't get me wrong. I had a great mentor, but in the same breath, I was like, I can't go on working 7 days a week and not having some sort of outlet.
Oh my goodness,
because
yes.
I was getting the writing piece, obviously. I was getting that, and people were like, why do you like to write and not just like sit in the lab all day and treat mice and stuff? And I was like, well, that's sort of my personality. I like being behind a computer. I like writing. But the creative part was just not there for me.
Right.
So I decided during grad school to start dancing again. And at the time, you're an adult, early 20s. You're like, well, I can't really go back to a studio because that's kind of, it's over when you're a senior in high school.
Yeah,
most studios don't really allow people to come back that are older. Some have
maybe
now,
to teach, but not.
Yeah, maybe to teach, which I did with Joyce for a while, but there wasn't a whole lot of adult classes back then. And so I was like, well, there's not one here. Let me just create my own. So I called up two of my girlfriends who worked with Joyce and grew up with Joyce, Tara Armstead and Shannon Huggins. And I said, hey, are you guys interested in putting something together? Let's work in the cultural district, downtown Pittsburgh. Let's get some adults involved. Let's just have a good time and get back that creative spirit and that energy.
Sure.
And they were like, oh yeah, let's do this. So we started classes down there almost 14 years ago now. And at the time I was like, come one, come all. Any adult that wants to just get back into that dance feeling, that awesome feeling that you had when you were a kid, just being on the dance floor, moving around, having a good time, no pressure, come join us. And so we had a following for a bit. Life happens, people change. Sure. And my sister, Brianna Pato, was also a dancer for Joyce.
Okay.
And she is younger than me. And she also kind of wanted to get back to that dancing spirit. And so her and I started BaM Choreography LLC. Together. So BaM stands for Bree and Meg. Okay. There you go. And we've been hopping around to different studios ever since. And our business model is just being there for anybody who wants to come and move with us. You do not have to be a trained dancer. It could be your first dance class ever, and you can come to us, and we're so beginner friendly. Okay. No judgment, no pressures, our motto. When we first started, we worked a lot with kids. We went to different studios and kind of showed our skills to those studios and like guest workshops and things like that. But over the course of the last few years, it's evolved to more adult dancing and fitness. I got my group certification in fitness training a couple of years ago. So, working with adults of all levels and abilities. Right. Our senior citizens, mature adults, I'm working with them in a seated fitness class in the area.
How does that work?
It's really cool. All you need is a chair. You just move our body. And I get a lot of input that, wow, I can't believe I got my whole body worked out sitting in the chair. And I was like, yeah, it's possible. Yeah,
that's like counterintuitive. You would think
it's possible.
That's very cool.
So yeah, that piece really solidified that creative bug for me. Okay. And I'm not willing to give it up. We'll get to that, I'm sure.
Good for you, yeah.
On the science front and the writing front, I've evolved out of academia because, like I said, it was super stressful for me. I think I could have cut it in terms of, making grants happen and making research dollars come in, but did I want to cut it? A part of me really wanted to help people too, a little bit more than what I was getting from treating mice every day, to be honest.
Sure, yeah, I get it.
So I did the postdoc thing for like a year because that's what you're supposed to do. Right. Got my feet wet in some clinical trial development there. And I thought, okay, maybe I want to get more further into human treatment. Okay. That would be great. Moved to biotech. And while I was in biotech, worked with some pharma companies. But then that's when me and my husband got together and met my husband. We got married. We started a family. And I thought to myself, okay, well, now I have the creative piece, but the science piece, the writing piece, it's just not there for me yet. I need a little bit more flexibility. I want to be a mom. I want to be a good mom. I can't come into the office every day and punch a time card and make sure that I'm here for whatever, 8-9 hours when I have a child that's going to be in daycare and might need me to pick him up. So I saw a posting on LinkedIn, actually, for a medical writer. And I thought to myself, well, this seems to check a lot of boxes. Let me look into this. I cold applied, and I've been working as a medical writer for the last 10 years. And I've jumped a couple of companies, and it's mostly working with pharma to write up their clinical trial results. So I get to see the research come in, how their drugs are affecting patients, how they're benefiting patients. And then I write up these results for FDA submission or for other regulatory agencies across the globe. And it's really been super fulfilling because I'm getting that science piece. I'm getting that writing piece, which I love. And I'm getting to be able to have a flexible job. I've been working from home for 10 years, way before COVID. I've been working from home.
Yeah, you kind of invented that.
Yeah. And so in a lot of ways, right?
That's cool.
So yeah, that's been great. And, you know, with the dancing on the side too, those two have just really made me feel complete, honestly.
Yeah. And you know, as I said before we started, that balance impresses me, you know, the left brain, right brain. But I just listened to you and watched you go back and forth between the two so seamlessly. It was like, you know, you talked about dance, you talked about you know, that's impressive. And there's like, it came together for you.
It did.
You know, and then throw POW motherhood on top of that, which is a full-time job, full-time career in itself, especially with two little boys. I had boys. I know what that's like, you know, but wow, that is really cool. And so then on top of that, you decided, well, I have like 7 or 8 minutes of free time a day, so I'm going to start a podcast.
Yeah. So I am a classic upholder. And I don't know if you've heard of that term, but I am only accountable to me. So if something comes out of my head or out of my mouth or onto paper, I'm going to do it. And if I don't do it, I'm disappointed in only myself.
Okay.
So I usually don't even tell people when I have these ideas or ventures because I want to just be accountable to me. Right. And this takes me back to growing up. My dad was an entrepreneur, is an entrepreneur. He had a pretty successful board game business in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember that. Man Enterprises. And still to this day, he has a whiteboard in his office where he writes down these ideas of things he wants to make. And that always inspired me, you know? Yeah. And he said something to me years ago, if there's a will, there's a way. And that has stuck with me for the last 20 some years.
Good for
you.
Yeah.
And I had this idea after I had my boys. We're sitting there. They love to read too. I've been reading to them before bed almost every night since they've been born. We're sitting there and we got this book. It's like General Relativity for Babies because I am a classic nerd. And I got this book and I was like, let me try this out with them. They loved it. They jumped onto it. And I said, wow, this is like such complex material that somebody was able to simplify down to such an easy, understandable little text. And I thought, I could do this. There's something in me that wants to do this. I'm an immunologist by training. My husband was a software engineer at the time. I was like, when I was growing up, my parents both worked, but I didn't really understand what they did.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, they go to work every day. They come home, engineer, medical transcriptionist. Okay, I sort of know what that means. But when you're 10 years old, you're like,
sure,
I don't really know what that means.
Sure.
So I thought, is there a way for me to create books that take really complex STEM type fields and make them really simple for the kids?
Okay.
So I created my Little Dreamer book series about 4 years ago now. And there's 13 books in the series. And I got a lot of input from other parents and other colleagues in the scientific areas and interviewed them to understand what their jobs are. I have like a pharmacist book, a pediatric physician's assistant, a biomedical engineer book, immunologist, software engineer book, of course. I've also dabbled into social work now in one of the later series books. And I created these self-published. I have this amazing illustrator called Lenka Notes. She's in UK. And my kids just ate them up. I was sitting there with them. I'm like, this is a T cell. This is how your body reacts to a vaccine. Like, this is, they just loved it.
Wow.
And I thought, this is awesome.
What a great idea.
Yeah. So that was my little dreamer piece. And then it expanded. We all got shut down in 2020, right? So we're all isolated at home.
Right.
And I noticed that a lot of my friends, especially, were feeling very isolated and feeling very alone. A lot of single friends of mine were just like, what am I doing with my life? Just starting to contemplate all these things.
Yep.
So I expanded the My Little Dreamer into Pittsburgh Dreamer Productions to work more with adults about what they want to do with their life, honestly. And I don't consider myself a career coach by any means, because I'm not certified in that, but I created what's called the Virtual Accountability Buddy to help people work through whatever they want to accomplish. They often come to me like, well, how did you do all this? What's your secret sauce? That kind of thing. I get that a lot. So I was like, let me help them out. Let me sit with people and just talk to me. What do you want to accomplish in your life? And right now I'm working with clients across the country, and we talk about everything from like, I want a career change, I want to lose weight, to I want to clean out my closet and I just can't get the motivation to do it. Like, how do I do this? So I work with folks to break down lofty tasks or lofty goals into very manageable tasks. And we check in. I check in with them. How's it going? What'd you do this week? Why didn't you do it? What challenges can we overcome?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, listen. So expect a call from Aaliyah by the end of the weekend, because everything you just said, she needs. So you're gonna call Meghan. Okay.
Yeah. So that's my Pittsburgh Dreamer piece.
Okay.
And on top of that, because I manifested it years ago, I said to a friend of mine, Shannon Gregg, who's well-known in the Pittsburgh area. You've probably seen her on a billboard. She and I have been talking back and forth about time management for years. Mm-hmm. And I said, I would love to interview you sometime. Just out of nowhere, I said that. I would love to interview sometime. And I was like, what does that look like nowadays? How do you interview somebody just like a friend? Well, that's where the PGH Dreamers Pod came in. And I've been interviewing women, creators, business owners in the area for the last, 3 years or so. And I have a new season coming up soon, and I have some big names on there, and I'm really excited to share. But it's awesome to hear like all of these women that are able to,
my goodness,
just do it all basically. Yeah. And they're small voices right now, and I'm hoping to catapult them, and people are being more informed now with their social media. They're following them, so it's really cool.
One of the reasons we started this podcast is because I would see, whether it's on social media, on television, wherever it is, all these famous people doing these really cool things. And I would say, I know a guy down the street, there's a guy in Lock 4 that does that. Okay. I mean, you'd have to be from the Valley to know what Lock 4 is. But so I thought, why aren't we telling the stories like this of people who are doing these really cool things every day, but they're under the radar? Nobody, they're not famous. Right. So we just wanted to tell really cool stories. So I approach this with, there's only one criteria to be on our podcast, is that you do something that I think is interesting. Yeah. Right. So before Terry told me that I knew you, I saw the post you did the little podcast with Lynn Barry, who's a dear friend of mine, and you put it on LinkedIn, and I commented on it, and I saw it. And then I looked at you, and I thought, wow, I know this person, but okay. And that's when I reached out to you, because I started to look at your story, and I was intrigued by you and how you've done and pulled all of these pieces together. And by the way, no disrespect to your dad. I know your dad, I have a lot of respect for him, but he's an amateur entrepreneur compared to you. Okay. I mean, he can learn from you. I mean, that's impressive, my friend. I mean, you've done all these things, and a lot of people can get to the point where they're a mile wide and an inch deep. Right? Oh, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. But, they don't go any below the surface. But you've made it work. Everything that you just talked about, you have succeeded at. You've made it work at a level that is comfortable for you, And I love the fact that you said you only want to be accountable to you, because that means that nobody but you can define your success.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I just keep going back to, on top of that, you're a full-time mom, so that's all really cool stuff.
all good.
So if you pardon the interruption, but a bit of the art was, one of the art pieces was sold, and Ark had to come in and take it down. So got Nick all flustered and worked up, and he had to do some background changes. But we're back. We're back. So I don't know how much of what you just said is going to be on here. So can you tell us about the Facebook group again?
Yeah. So the selling of the art reminded me that, and the giving back, in which some of the proceeds do. The Pgh Dreamers Productions has a Facebook group called Do Good, Feel Good.
Okay.
And the idea there is that I post something every day to prompt people to interact in a positive way with social media. You know, tell me something good that happened today.
Very much needed.
Tell me your favorite drink or whatever, something to get people excited. And depending on how many likes and comments I get on those posts, I donate 10 cents to the month's organization that I've deemed the beneficiary.
Very cool.
From the PGH Dreamer Productions funds. So this is a way to sort of give back and keep people engaged in a more positive way, just to decrease the toxicity that I'm sure people are ingesting on a daily basis through social media.
Well, you're right. And, you know, the world can be changed through business.
Yeah.
Right. If you carry yourself and conduct your business in the right way, you can have a positive impact in people's lives and make a profit.
Yeah.
Those things aren't mutually exclusive.
That's
right. You know, that's really cool. And again, it's similar to the things that we do. You know, we try to support charities. It's difficult sometimes, but you know, you have to give. If you want to receive something, you have to give first.
That's right. That's right. Yes. And it's really important that people understand all the organizations that are out there. I feel like that's a whole other piece, right? We already talked about the business, getting visibility on the businesses, but visibility for all these nonprofits that are doing incredible work, especially in our local area, you know, so what better way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we stumbled upon, I shouldn't say stumbled upon, it was, I don't know if it was divine intervention or what it was, but somebody asked us, we were here filming, and we love to film in this, even though it can be disruptive at times, but that's really kind of what we were going for. We like this vibe.
Real.
It's what we want to be. We want to be real. And somebody said, "Hey, you guys ever looking for any guests for your podcast?" We said, "Yeah, we're always open to that." And they introduced us to an organization. It's called Hekima Place, Hekima Place, and it's become something that we absolutely love. It's a Pittsburgh-based organization that was founded by a former Roman Catholic nun. And she went to Africa, to Kenya, and on a mission trip, basically found a niche and started this organization from a shoestring. And she has now got an orphanage for orphan girls in Kenya, and a school, K through 8th grade. And they've put about 300 girls through the program that they stay there through high school. They get them into high school. And, you know, girls in those types of cultures don't have value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So she gives them value and gets them. Some of them have gone to college. Some have become entrepreneurs, but they're all self-contained. It's just a wonderful organization. And Kate Fletcher is her name. And Kate is now 85. And she's been in town and doing fundraising and things. And so we had her and her executive director on the podcast. And from that, we're going to Kenya to film a documentary about it. We've started filming it. Kate is now 85 years old. She has purple hair and in a personality that just will blow you away. But there are so many organizations out there like that, that, you know, you don't really know about.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you just trip over them, or, you know, it's like I said, it's divine intervention, whatever it is. But I think that's wonderful that you're doing that and drawing attention to those types of organizations that otherwise would struggle. And even if it's $10, it's $10 they didn't have.
Exactly.
You know, and I asked Kate, what would $75 mean to a child in Kenya, right? So in the engineering industry, there are, you know, I have colleagues that paid $75 an hour. Okay. So they're sitting there and they're doing their thing, and they're not really putting forth a whole lot of effort. They're definitely not breaking a sweat. $75 is a fortune.
Yeah.
You know, so
worthy causes. Yeah.
You don't realize, if just donate an hour of your salary a week, 1 hour a week. Okay. And if you're making that, you know, a certain amount of money, you're not missing that. You know, you can really support and make a difference in people's lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I love what you're doing. That's fantastic.
No, and I like that you brought up girls and the value of girls. And this brings me back to, looking back at what my mom sacrificed to have 3 children at an early age. She raised us.
And you're all girls, right? You have 3, you have 2 sisters. Yeah.
God bless her.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
So from an early age, she raised us well, and she put her education and her career goals aside, honestly, until my youngest sister, Bree, who's the other founder of BaM Choreography, went to full-time school. And then my mom went back to school and got a degree and worked. And I just sit back now and think, wow, how things have changed. And just the abilities of women to do more. Yes. They don't have to be pigeonholed into that box of, well, you have kids and then that's it. Yeah. Or you get married and your housewife.
You don't have to choose. You don't
have to choose. You can do it all. And I really like to promote that message a lot. I'm almost 40 years old. I like to think I'm not slowing down at any time. And people ask me, are you still dancing? Like, really? You're still doing that? Like, what does that do for you? I'm like, you have no idea. The joy I take from that, the stress relief I get from that, the community I've built. Yeah.
It's an incredible workout.
Yeah, it's an incredible workout. I have a group of volunteer adults that come together called the BaM Fam, and we create these concept dance videos that are just artistic expressions. And I'm like, that group of people brings me so much joy.
And you share those on social media and different things?
Yes, we share them on social media just for fun. Yeah. It's just a friend group, right? So it's doing something. Yes, I love my children. Yes, I love my husband. I enjoy being both a mom and a wife, and I'm working still, but I need something more than just all of that. And it's okay that your life doesn't revolve around just being a mom. Right. Nowadays.
That's exactly right. And, that can be your focus, and it should be, right? Mom should come first. In my opinion, mom should come first. But you don't have to sacrifice anything else. You need to write a book about that. And no, listen, think about this, because, we always talk about work-life balance. Anybody that's has a job, work-life balance is a thing. And, what you just described, people have been trying to figure out. You figured it out. Now, you figured it out for you. And what you just talked about, may not work for somebody over here. Yes. But you did figure it out. But so you have actually a blueprint that people can then take. Okay, here's the way Meghan did it. This worked for her, right? Now, this I don't really know about this dance thing, but oh man, I can put painting in here, or I can do this, I can do that. But you have a roadmap, a blueprint.
I like to think so.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm glad that you're sharing this out on social media, because you have a message that people need to hear, especially young professional women who maybe they focused on their career, and they, that the old saying, and I'm gonna date myself, the biological clock is ticking, right? I want to have a child, but I'm almost 40. Oh my goodness, and my son just turned 40 and his oldest daughter's 9, right? So it's like, you don't have to. I had my kids very young, and that worked for me. That may not work for the next guy. If I have a friend who's my age, 64, and he's still got kids in high school. That would not have worked for me, because I've been around teenage grandkids enough to know that I'm not the parent of a teenager now. Yeah. I'm not. That's not me. But at the end, everything's individual. But we have a common thread of humanity, right? We're different, but we're the same.
That's right.
That's right. So by putting your story out there and sharing it, and sharing the stories of all these of these professional, successful women, that is such a service that is so needed. I mean,
I hope so.
Kudos to you. It is. It's a wonderful thing, and we try to do that. We don't focus on one particular women or men or this or that or the other, but what you're doing is so needed, and it's so important. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And being a mother comes with its own set of obligations in a lot of ways, its own set of priorities. But I often see moms get into these ruts of, well, I got to keep up with the Joneses, and I have to, put my child in everything and be the taxi driver, and kind of put my own interests and excitement aside. And while I see value in that, don't get me wrong, I'm running my kids to a million different activities all the time. I also like to promote a message of, it's okay if you take an hour for yourself
Oh my
every
goodness,
week
yes.
and come take a dance class with me. It's okay.
Yeah.
Your kids are going to appreciate that. And one of the best things
because you're making yourself better.
That's right.
For them.
One of the best things my oldest son, Gianni, has ever said to me, and I will cherish this the rest of my life. He said, Mom, what do you do for work? He did ask me. He's like, what's your job? And it was probably like for a school project or whatever.
Yeah.
I said, well, Mom's a medical writer. That's my W-2 job. And then Mom is a dance teacher. Mom has the podcast. She works with people in the accountability buddy. And then he goes, and you raise us. That's a job too, right? And I was like,
there you go.
He gets it.
Wow.
He gets it at age 7.
That's
and I think,
incredible.
Yeah, I was like,
incredible.
I was floored by that because I was like, my children see me dancing. I have a studio in the basement of our house.
Okay.
So they see me dancing and they know, okay, well, Mom's down there doing her thing right now. And so they see me as more than just mom.
Right.
And that's okay, right?
And that's
Mom
more than
has a
okay.
life.
That's important.
Mom has a life.
Yes.
And she's with us and she's doing this and she's well-rounded in a lot of ways.
Kids need to see mom and dad doing other things than being mom and dad.
That's right.
They need to see that.
Go ahead.
No, it's great that you bring them along on that journey.
Yeah. And they're involved. I get them, on the dance floor when I can too. And my husband practices Brazilian jiu-jitsu and has for years, and that's his outlet. And they're getting involved with that now too. So it's nice to sort of paint a picture that you don't have to just be a parent.
Absolutely.
But one of the things I get all the time is, how do you do all this? Like, what is your secret sauce? What's your blueprint? And I was thinking about that this morning before coming here, and I thought, well, I'm super regimented about time management. I have my electronic schedule.
That's important.
I have my reminders that come up every day and say, you got to do all this. And I'm quick to put something into my calendar. As soon as I hear a date, it's in my calendar so I don't forget, right?
Yes.
I have to-do lists. I'm very regimented about time management and efficiency. If I can do it quick or quicker, I'm going to find a way to do that. We set out all of our breakfast materials the night before. I have the cereal sitting there, the bowl sitting,
everything's
so it's
ready.
just get up, do it, done. The clothes are sat out for the next day, the night before. So efficiency, and then understanding my own limitations, having the ability to say no to certain things.
Right.
If I don't want to do something, if I'm like, I just feel obligated doing
that's a hard thing. No's hard.
I usually say no, if
Yeah.
it's not something that's really going to bring me or my family joy, I'm probably not going to do it. And I don't feel guilty about that.
You shouldn't. And that in itself is quite an achievement, because that is hard to do. And because, especially when it comes to kids, because you want your kids to be involved.
Sure.
You want your kids to be accepted and to be, socially and all those things. And I think because of that, we overindulge kids as parents, and grandparents.
Yeah.
I'm as guilty
of it. I'm guilty of it.
And we're not doing them any favors, or ourselves, because one thing I learned is that, dad never turns off. Mom never turns off. And you get to a point, your children get to a point where they don't need mom and dad. And it's hard when you've been that for 18 years or whatever. Okay. Then all of a sudden your child wants you to transition to being a friend or that is nearly impossible if you don't kind of prepare yourself as you're moving forward.
Yeah.
Your oldest son is 7. So, I mean, you're not going to say, hey, buddy, let's go, but at the end of the day, when he's 27, you're going to be looking at a dramatically different relationship. He's still your son. You still love him. That's still your baby boy, but your relationship is going to be dramatically different.
Sure.
Sure. And a lot of parents can't do that.
Yeah, that will be a hard transition, and I don't know what that's going to feel like. But I think setting these boundaries now early is good, and it's hilarious to me when my kids wake up on a Saturday and they go, "Is it a nothing day?" And I'll say, "Yeah, today's a nothing day," and they're like, "Yes."
How cool is that?
I'm like, okay, well, doesn't that really strike a chord? And I take advantage too. I lay around for several hours if my body needs it that weekend. And I don't feel guilty about that. So just listening to my body, understanding what's best for everybody in the household.
More people need to do that.
Yeah.
Because your body will tell you what it needs if you pay attention.
It will.
And dancing, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, you don't need to do it for any other reason and I can tell you at 64 years old, I'm grateful that I had movement in my life. And you don't need to lift weights. You don't need to run marathons. All you have to do is move.
Yeah.
Just move.
Important.
I do yoga now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Old guy yoga is not pretty, but I mean, I still have mobility, and I know a lot of guys my age and even a little bit younger than me that are they're struggle with that. Mobility is such an important thing. I mean, ask your mom and dad. I'm sure they will tell you the same thing. You don't have to, be Superman, but just having that mobility and being able to bend over and tie your shoes, those types of things. It sounds simple, but as you get further away from where you started, it becomes more and more important.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even walking. One of the greatest exercises known to man is walking.
Yeah. Yeah.
It involves your entire body.
It's true. My husband and I do yoga. We've been starting to do our morning walks now that both the kids get on the bus in the morning.
Yeah.
My youngest is in kindergarten now. But I agree 100%. That's why I got involved with the mature adults in the area too, to do these sit and fit type classes, mindful movement classes. You don't have to break a huge sweat.
No.
Just move a little bit. It's going to do wonders for your body.
And I love yoga, even though I tip over a lot when I do it. Because it's like, but I discovered those things because I poo-pooed that when I was your age. I was like, come on, I'm going to the gym. But that probably, I wish I would have learned before I did. I was in my 50s when I realized that I don't need to be lifting weights. Who am I impressing? You know what I mean? I need to. So I started to work out for health rather than anything else.
100%.
And anybody that's in their 20s and 30s that goes to the gym and tells you they're doing it because they want to look a certain way, and that's great if that's your motivation to you get healthy by default.
Sure.
Right. But when you get older, that becomes harder and harder and harder because your body's going to change and look a certain way no matter what you do.
That's right.
I can go and I can do bench presses every single day and I'm still going to look like this.
Yeah.
Because if muscle tone, muscle loss, all
sure.
those things.
Genetic components, lots of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everybody's different. But at the end of the day, you can do little things. And again, movement, just moving.
Yeah.
Dancing is,
it's just so fun.
And it's fun. And you bring that component into it.
Yes. Just having that ability to have a good time while exercising is hard to come by for some people. They think, oh, I have to exercise. I have to go on the treadmill at the gym.
Yeah.
Boring, wonk, wonk, right? So my dance classes, I really try to tell people that it's for health. It's for fun. We're not trying to be professional dancers in New York City. We're not trying to get notoriety. Right. We're trying to move in a fun way to music.
Absolutely.
Move all of the pieces of the body. And my body feels it now that I'm almost 40. I'm not going to lie. I indulge in a massage every now and then to get the kinks out.
You change.
But it's really important to just keep moving. Right. Keep doing it.
Absolutely. And doing it like that, all of a sudden, instead of saying, I need to go work out, I want to go work out.
There you go.
I don't have to go work out. I want to.
Yes.
That's the difference between want and need.
Yeah.
It's like, this is something that I really want to do. So I'm going to go give everything I have to this and I'm going to have fun. It's going to bring me joy and I'm going to get healthy.
Fun fact too. So dancing doing choreographed dance. So that means that you're learning steps, working your brain and your muscles.
Everything.
Actually wards off neurodegenerative diseases like dementia and things like that. Yes. So that's one of the few physical activities that can impact the brain in that way. So I was like, I'm going to do this until I can no longer do this.
Absolutely.
I mean, why not? Stay sharp up here just by learning awesome moves and cool things. Yeah. So
that's really cool because, And I'll use my wife as an example. I mean, when we met 20 some odd years ago, she was a runner. She worked out. She ran 4 or 5 miles a day. And she was always very healthy and in really good shape, ate right, didn't do anything wrong. I mean, it was literally boring. Okay. And then, one day we were at my stepson's Major League Football game. It's been like 20 years now. And she said, I don't know if they when they washed the jerseys, the numbers ran or what. I said, what are you talking about? And she said, the numbers are like blurred. They're like running. I said, no, they're not. And so she went to, maybe I need glasses. So she went to the eye doctor and he just said, no, you don't need me. You need this. He referred her to an endocrinologist right there. She went to that first appointment and got her first insulin shot at that first appointment.
Wow.
And she was 41, had no history of it in her family. There's to this day, he's been treating her for like 21 years. He still can't tell her. He says she's type 1.5. Seriously, because there's there's no logical reason for her to have type 1 diabetes.
No.
So it's like her pancreas just doesn't make insulin. It just refuses to, right? So, but again, we talked earlier today with we did a show before yours because we're trying to get caught up on some things, but we talked about technology and how technology has impacted us. So I watched her go from giving herself 4 shots a day, and then look, we can't mix up the daily insulin with the overnight insulin and this and that and the other, to basically just once a week with the pump,
Yeah, those pumps are incredible.
It was life-changing, right? It was life-changing. So, but it's so easy to just fall into, like, now she's as healthy as she can be with that condition, but she doesn't run anymore. She doesn't walk anymore. She doesn't, do that exercise. But she still eats, right? And I actually, it's a true story. I got healthier than I've ever been in my life when she got sick because I started to eat what she eats.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, and things are different, but it's very easy to become sedentary, and television, the phone, the internet, social media. You sit and and so having a reason to get up and go out somewhere and move and dance and whatever it is that brings you joy.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the exercises that you mentioned can be really hard on the body, especially as we're aging, and so I try to promote gentle movement, low impact movement in some of my classes, not all. Some of my classes, that way people don't feel scared. They're not intimidated,
It's not dancing is not as hard on your joints, your hips, your knees in particular, right? And as long as you keep that, listen, when you get old and your hips lock up, you have, you lose that flexibility. And, one of the times I tipped over in yoga, I saw there was a guy, man and a woman, and they were doing a spine thing. But anyway, they twisted all the way around. So I can't even tell you. They were touching their right ankle with their left ankle with their right hand.
Yeah.
And twisting their body and touching their right knee with their left hand.
Okay. Yeah.
Twisting. So naturally,
like
I tried to do it and fell over. I didn't even come close. But it's just so important, and you're doing such cool stuff, kiddo. I mean, I'm so happy you came on here and joined us, because this is stuff. Yeah, I mean, people need to hear this. Yeah. They need to hear it. It's
really the sedentary lifestyle, though. Wow. Yeah, we're addicted. We're addicted to our phones.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm no better.
Absolutely. We all do it.
I don't know what the secret is there besides literally removing it from your sight. But I will say the TV I've tried to get away from the past couple of years.
I've been able to do that.
I've been able to too.
I've been able to do that.
I kind of get into that fatigue of scrolling anymore with all the Netflix. I don't even know what to watch. I'm just going to go to bed. But I really enjoy reading a good book now. Mm-hmm. That's my go-to. That's my little entertainment, I guess, for the night. And that helps me detox from the screen too.
Oh my goodness,
too much. It's too much all day.
It is. It is.
But getting out of that habit, that's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's tough.
Any habit's hard to break.
Yeah.
Right. And the scary thing is, in trying to break a habit, too many people replace it with another habit. So I get rid of this. I'm not doing I'm not going to smoke anymore. I'm going to chew tobacco.
Yeah.
I mean, and I had a good friend of mine who struggled with addiction and alcohol and drugs, and he smokes now. And he said, he told me one day, he says, dude, I kicked alcohol. I kicked drugs. I can't for the life of me stop smoking. Can't do it. And that was a powerful statement to me, because, you would think of those 3 choices, that's the most innocuous. If you have to pick, the lesser of 3 evils, that's the one you would pick, but it's the hardest to kick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great books on habits and kicking habits, but it really has to be a personalized solution for you. You can read until you're blue in the face, but until you actually put it into practice and try to, like you're saying, substitute in a good habit. Yeah. When you have a craving for a cigarette, go for a walk.
Exactly.
If you have a craving, do 10 minutes of meditation, and still if you still have that craving. A nutritionist told me a long time ago, because I got into the habit of over snacking during COVID, and she said, well, give yourself 10 minutes. Are you really hungry or are you just bored?
No,
Do you just need something to do with your hands? And I was like, wow, that's profound.
Absolutely.
And I have it pasted on the bottom of my computer now. Do you really need it?
I learned that, right? Because, I will find myself sitting, we started in COVID, and I'm eating chocolate chip cookie. And then I'll say, why am I doing this? Yeah. I'm not even remotely hungry. I just ate what, and it was just boredom. That's all it was.
Yeah. Something to do.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. And get out in nature. I mean, nature is still the world's best doctor.
What a healer.
I mean, just where we're at here at Cedar Creek Park, you could go walk on a walking track, walk a mile on a walking track, go down and walk on the Gap Trail at Cedar Creek, that same mile, and you're going to feel 10 times better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just what it does to you getting out there and being
forest bathing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I wish I did it more.
I was just going to say that. I would love to be able to do that more, but getting back to your whole story, the work-life balance, and even at my age, after 40-year professional career, I still find myself, not having enough hours in a day to do things. When Nick and I had a call scheduled with our team yesterday, and I completely blew past it. And our editor, who's up in New York State, he sent a text and he said, "Hey, can we get together?" I said, "Oh man," and it's in my calendar, right?
Yeah,
I get it. There was no reason not to do it, but I was focused on this, and this, and checking off the boxes, and just skipped right over that one unconsciously. So yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it happens. It happens to me too. Progress, not perfection, is that's my motto to live by.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I'm going to try my best, but if things fall through the cracks, they fall through the cracks. If I go to school pickup in sweatpants today because it fell through the cracks getting ready this morning, it fell through the cracks. No big deal. Keep going. You
have figured this stuff out at a very young age. Listen, I don't
consider myself that young, but okay.
Well, that's... Again, anybody that's my kid's age or younger is young. So, but no. So it's getting back to that blueprint, and I'm being very serious when I say this because, I wrote a book, okay, and it's going to be published very soon, and it's not. It took me a while to write it because I've been journaling for a long time, and I started to take from that journal. That's what morphed into the blog. What's actually morphed into the podcast, and now this book. It's my personal journey from there to here, right? And the mistakes I made, the lessons I learned, and this and that. And I didn't write it to tell people how to do it. You should go this way. You should walk this path. But just if somebody picks it up and reads it, because the mistakes I made and the things I did are universal. Everybody does it, right? I went through a divorce. That divorce absolutely impacted my life in a way that it's undeniable, right? That was a life-changing situation, not just for me and my ex-wife, but for my kids and, all the way around. I talk about it. I don't tell people, listen, don't get divorced. Don't do this. Don't do that. Well, if you do this, do that. I don't do that. Here's what I did, right? Yeah. Here's what I did right. And here's what I did wrong. Yeah. And, again, like I said, with the blueprint for you, from that, I hope that people can pull out the little nuggets that will help them when they encounter certain obstacles and adversities in their life, right? And again, we're not doing it to make money. We're not doing it to sell a certain amount of books other than we want to support charity with it, right? That's what we're doing it for. That's so, great. If one person watches this podcast or 1,000 people watch the podcast, if that one person that needs to hear what Meghan Greenwood has to say, if they see it, then we had a good day.
That's right.
Right?
And I'm all for helping people. Day. That's my MO at the end of the day.
That's why we're here, right? I mean, seriously. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we're all here. Yeah. Who was it? I can't remember who actually said it, but, we're doing nothing more than walking each other home. Did you ever hear that say?
I like that.
And that's what we're doing. And I'm sorry, I can't know where that quote came from. It'll come to me. I'm having a senior moment. But essentially, that's what we're doing. We're walking each other home. There's no, we all have an expiration date. We're all going to get to a certain point, right? There's only one way to get out of here. Okay. So, and I think it's important to acknowledge that and not hide from it, not be afraid of it. And that's coming from me. And I can see it. I mean, it's like, if I live as long as my father, okay, my father died at 84. I got 20 years left. So I can look at it as I only have 20 years. Oh my God. Or I got 20 years. Empires have been built in 20 years, right?
That's right.
I mean, I can do anything in the next 20 years that I want to do. Okay. As long as I move and keep myself healthy and do, and do all these things. But we are here to walk in our purpose and take care of each other.
That's right.
That's why we're here.
Absolutely. And I don't want you to paint a picture that I've got it all figured out, because I make mistakes on the daily basis.
But that's part of it. And that's part of having it figured out.
Yeah. And that's part of growing too,
Sure.
and I look back and I think, wow, I could have done X, Y, Z differently. Sure. But I don't want to have regrets when the time does come to say goodbye to this world. Right. And I want to make sure that I did what I sought out to do. And I hope my kids are inspired to do the same. And that's where I can leave my purpose on the world.
No, that's very cool. You have a great perspective on all of that. And, it comes from where you come from, how you were raised, and, I get it. I get it. We're a little bit different down here in the respect that I think in the Mon Valley, particularly in your lifetime, it's been a struggle. You weren't born into the same community I was 20 years before you, right? Charleroi, for example, has maybe 4,000 people. All right. When I lived in Charleroi, when I was growing up there were over 10,000. So it was a dramatically different community. There was not a single empty storefront. It was like a mini version of Pittsburgh, of the South Side in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So I was blessed to know what that was. But by the time you and my kids and, you guys came along, it was very, very different. So, but the one thing that I think both generations had in common was looking out for each other, was family. Not only family, your parents looking out for you and your sisters, but also your aunts and uncles, your cousins, your friends. You know what I mean? We're the perfect example of it takes a village.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We really are.
Yeah, there's so many folks that I know from across the U.S. that don't have that family unit anymore. And a part of me is like, maybe I should have moved. Maybe I should have seen more of the world. But then my kids wouldn't be around their aunts, their great aunts, their great uncles, their cousins. Second, third, fourth cousins. Right. And I really value that from this area, and the work ethic, right? Yes. The work ethic of this area, because they have gone through so many changes. It's really sort of inherent and hopefully being passed on.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And again, I'm very happy to see it is being passed on, because I can see it. I witness it every day. So getting ready to wrap up in closing, we have 5 guiding principles. And I don't know if you've seen, I put this out there a lot. Live, love, learn, pray, and inspire, right? Those are the foundational principles of everything that I do. So when I was growing up, my father always preached that to me, right? He was a teacher and, and a coach and all those things. And he always was throwing these little nuggets out. But what he would say is live, love, learn, pray, inspire. If you try to do those 5 things every day, you're going to have a really good day. At the end of the day, you go home and you say, wow, you don't have to succeed. You have to try. So of those 5, what resonates to you? Pick one that resonates to you and tell us why.
Wow. I'd probably have to say learn, to be honest. Nerd to the core. I love learning new things. And whether that's something that my kids teach me, my husband teaches me, the world teaches me, work teaches me, all the great people I talk to on a daily basis teach me. I take something and internalize it and remember it and do something with it eventually, almost every day. I just love learning. I'm going to be a learner till I die. I love doing like those online courses that you can get really quickly, and listening to podcasts like yours and just learning from people on a daily basis. It's so incredible to me that there's so much still out there to learn.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
The knowledge pool is never ending.
I learn something every day. And my father said that. He said, I hope on my last day that I learn something new. I really do. And you can't really ask for any more than that. Be a lifelong learner and everything falls into place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks
I'm
so much
glad
for
we were
having
able
me.
to connect. This is awesome. And, we'll definitely have to do it again, because I know there's more things we can talk about.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Much success to you too. Thanks.
Thank you. And to you, you want to give a plug to your website and how people can find you?
Where do I start? BaM Choreography. We're on Facebook, Instagram, bamchoreography.com.
Okay.
PGH Dreamer Productions.com, at PGH Dreamer on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me at either one of those. They're connected as well through each other's websites. But yeah, I'd love to dance with you on the dance floor or work with you through accountability.
There you go. Excellent. Thank you so much.